All right, so moving on to our hot take, our biggest news story of the week, and it might be an unfortunate thing, it might be a good thing, depending on how you feel, but the Benioff and Weiss, if you don't know who they are the creators of the Game of Thrones TV show, and the creative minds behind it, and they were set up to work on and create, write, develop, maybe direct, who knows, a Star Wars trilogy, and they are officially off of it now. Some of us saw this coming. There were hints leading towards it. But yes, Benioff and Weiss are off of the Star Wars trilogy. And them and Kathleen Kennedy have both released statements. So Benioff and Weiss, I don't know which one of them said this, but you know what's funny, when they're group directors, they always like leave a quote and they don't say who said it.
They're essentially the same person.
Like Lord and Miller,
Yeah,
or the Russo brothers, like a quote from the Russo brothers, like which one of you said that?
They're essentially one person. So
exactly, it's funny. But so this is what Benioff and Weiss had to say. We love Star Wars. When George Lucas built it, he built us too. Getting to talk about Star Wars with him and the current Star Wars team was the thrill of a lifetime, and we will always be indebted to the saga that changed everything. There are only so many hours in the day, and we felt we could not do justice to both Star Wars and our Netflix projects. We are regretfully stepping away. So that's what they had to say. Then Kathleen Kennedy had a small statement to say. She said, David Benioff and Dan Weiss are incredible storytellers. We hope to include them in the journey forward when they are able to step away from their busy schedule to focus on Star Wars. So both statements are just PR spins, basically.
Kathleen Kennedy's statement is crap.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolute crap.
Both of them have a little bit of backhand, if you really listen. Because Benioff and Weiss to George Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
They
don't say anything good about the current Star Wars movies or anything like that.
They even say it, the saga. And it kind of, to me, when I hear that, I'm thinking they're talking about before what's happened. And then with hers is just that typical like backhand when you have time, like
so
that type.
We're gonna talk much more in depth on this in the next Padawan because it's Star Wars related.
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy's statement is a big pile of burning crap, but there also is some truth to it because in reality, they signed a massive Netflix deal after they already signed with Lucasfilm, and so that obviously already. It does create issues because Netflix probably requires certain things at certain time points. I highly doubt Netflix is like, go do your Star Wars things for the next 4 years and then we'll do it afterwards. Like they gave them like a huge deal, like a 7-figure deal or something, and they're supposed to get all this content from him, and now you're going to go do Star Wars and wait 3, 4, 5 years down the road to do it.
It takes like 2 years to make a movie.
Exactly, so there is some truth to it. But this is also really, really bad for Lucasfilm because they're the fourth set of filmmakers in 5 years that have essentially had a bad issue with Star Wars. You know, you had the Josh Trank stuff with, and granted, that wasn't Lucasfilm's fault. There was issues with Josh Trank. There was. Gareth Edwards had a little bit of issues with Rogue One, and they had a director come on for reshoots. And then you had the Lord Miller stuff, and now you have the Benioff and Weiss stuff. Colin Trevorrow. So 5 sets of filmmakers. And so it's not a good thing for Lucasfilm. Am I like I think I told Brian this when it first dropped.
I almost hate saying Lucasfilm. It's to me like I almost want to say like Disney.
Well, it's Lucasfilm. They're their own studio.
I know. It's just.
Are you going to add Ryan Johnson to that list now?
I don't know if he had an issue though. He didn't really have because they gave him creative freedom.
His new trilogy is.
So they gave him creative freedom.
Trilogy is gone.
So they gave Ryan Johnson creative freedom to do whatever he wants, which is why I don't include him in that. The issue here is that it seems like Kathleen Kennedy is at the center of all of this. And there's been a lot of talk lately about if she's stepping away, if she's going to stay on. I think I may have told Brian this when it first dropped. It doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would that they're leaving. It really doesn't. Like, I think anybody can do what they're going to do. And if nobody does the story they're going to tell, I'm going to be really upset because it was going to tell the origins of the Jedi. Like, if nobody does that, I'm going to be really upset. If someone takes it over, I'm fine with it. Like, whatever. The biggest problem here is Kathleen Kennedy, though, because it seems like she doesn't really know what she's doing, as far as, like, delegating stuff. Because in 5 years, 5 different sets of filmmakers have left a film in a bad way. It's not a good thing to do, especially with a project like Star Wars.
We've never seen this with one franchise happen so often in such little time. This happens a lot with a bunch of different franchises, right? But it happens once in a while. This is crazy. It just keeps happening
with every Star Wars.
Like this, there's a few rare occasions you can point out, but after making 22 films, Marvel has maybe one or two little dramas with directors, and it wasn't even Kevin Feige. None of it was ever Kevin Feige's.
And it was all in the beginning. It was all during a rough patch. This is like well into everything.
Yeah, and the thing with this is it's like they agreed to make a film, and then somewhere in the production process they drop out for some reason, one reason or another.
I think you can't not blame Benioff and Weiss a little bit though, because they did sign this before the Netflix.
No, there's definitely some truth to that. 100%.
I think that they've known that they're not going to do the Star Wars movie for a long time.
Since like May.
So I think they knew before they signed the Netflix deal.
Probably.
In my opinion, because I don't think you signed that deal knowing you're going to be working on Star Wars films. They might have. I just wonder how all the logistics work. Like, did they sign a contract with Lucasfilm? Is there like they got a bonus, signing bonus or something, and then now they don't get paid? I wonder how all that works.
We also know where the money.
Yeah,
well,
where's the money going?
We also don't know the details
of
how it happened. Like, did Lucasfilm buy out their contract, or did they ask to walk away from the contract? Like those are two different
it's kind of crazy. Like, who knows what kind of work they've done already? Worked on Outlands or something like that. But they got paid for not working on the movie, But who knows? Maybe their treatments, if it is the origins of the Jedi, which I hope it is, that's what we want to see. We just want to see something heavily Force related set in the past of Star Wars, whatever it is. If they take those treatments and adapt them, maybe that's a possibility. And maybe
I don't think they'll let this go. I think they'll just grab another filmmaker down the road.
Maybe that's what Kevin Feige's producing. The thing is, if you look at it, it kind of all makes sense, right? Benioff and Weiss signed the Netflix deal. Because I don't think they want to cause drama. They don't want to announce all this stuff all at once. Then they announce Kevin Feige that's coming on to produce a Star Wars movie. Then they announce Benioff and Weiss are leaving. It might all be connected. And maybe Kevin Feige's coming in to help with this project, which I think he would do great with that.
You're awfully silent over there.
Well, I'm kind of trying to gather everything based off of what was said officially and what you guys are saying. And what it sounds like is Benioff and Weiss initially signed what wasn't a first look deal. Because if it's a first look deal...
At Netflix?
Yeah, with Netflix, right? But beforehand, they signed with Star Wars. Well, you mentioned Kathleen Kennedy is kind of the center of this whole problem, and I think the reason why Kevin Feige was brought in was because a lack of vision of the next 10 years of Star Wars. She had no problem kicking this universe off with Episode 7 because the plan was to just get it started, right, and then maybe the films after would follow. But the type of filmmakers that you bring in, they're going to have their own vision and ways that they want to do these Star Wars movies. Jeez. So I think what happened was Benioff and Weiss sign on to Star Wars because who wouldn't? Then maybe there's no clear picture because you have Rian Johnson's trilogy. You got Disney Plus. What comes after the Star Wars saga, Skywalker saga? Can they really afford to wait 5-6 years down the road? Meanwhile, Netflix, who just lost Star Wars Disney content and everything, says, "Come work with us."
I think Netflix is in a panic, and that's I just looked at. They threw $250 million at just those two guys. Because think about Netflix for a while has been untouchable. You got Amazon Prime.
Oh, everyone's catching up.
Amazon Prime kind of gave you a couple gut punches, but nothing you couldn't handle. Hulu was just kind of TV, so it was just maybe like a knock on the chin. Look at how many things Netflix has to compete with now. Disney Plus, Amazon, HBO Max, Hulu.
Universal's doing something too.
The
problem is all these studios are pulling their things off of Netflix.
Well, see, I see that point, but I also see I think Netflix is fine because
they're going to be fine.
They create enough original content, and they also have a lot of stuff. A lot of people don't realize that they also have all of the Mark Millar world in their back pocket waiting to make stuff. Nana Benioff and Weiss. They have
Scorsese coming out,
and then the woman who does the Grey's Anatomy show, she's doing all kinds of crap on Netflix. So they're plenty of fine. When I mentioned the Kathleen Kennedy stuff, the reason I say that she's probably the center of the problem is because if we look at The Force Awakens, right, and it's a great movie, we love it, it's one of the best Star Wars movies, it got us back into the fold, right?
$2 billion, yeah.
But it's a very straight-to-the-point movie that is audience-friendly, right? It kind of almost in a way lacks the creativity of the original Star Wars, right? It was a very safe movie.
Yeah, because you could say it pulled from
The Last Jedi, very creative, very different, got a little backlash from fans.
A little.
As soon as that happened, Kathleen Kennedy goes, no, Colin Trevorrow, we're not going to let you do that. We're bringing JJ back on. He's going to get us back to the safe and friendly one. And so I have a feeling that Kathleen Kennedy doesn't really understand, like, the best way to put it, the canon of Star Wars and the creativity and, like, everything else going on. She wants these safe projects that are audience friendly and that will get the job done. Because if you look at the TV stuff they're doing, she's involved, but she's also not involved. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are running that show. They are running that show. She can be on set and everything, but she has not a hand in like that, like she does the movies.
She needs to let the nerds do the work.
Well, she needs to delegate like a true manager would. And as a coach, an ex-coach, a sports aspect, if you're a good manager, you hire better coaches underneath you. She's not hiring better coaches underneath her because she wants to make all the decisions.
Yeah, and that's tough to hear because she's been involved for so long. They handpicked by George Lucas.
She's an incredible producer. Incredible producer. Like the project she's produced over the years is incredible. Why not continue to do that and let the people who know it do their job?
Well, I think with the films, I don't think she was as hands-on with the films either. The problem is, we've talked about this a million times, they never had a plan. It was Abrams, Rian Johnson, it was going to be Trevorrow, and then that whole thing was just, it should have been a 3-movie plan from the beginning.
At least not even like a one director, but at least the same writers. It was the same different writer every movie.
It doesn't have to be the same director at all. It could be 3 different directors. But it should, like we talked about, it should have been the same writers working on this whole thing. And they said, here, take The Force Awakens and make whatever sequel you want to make. That's ridiculous.
And then the anthology films and how, it started to feel like there was I don't want to say an oversaturation of Star Wars in the, market, but there kind of was because these films were getting mixed reviews. Solo is a good movie, but it's mixed. Last Jedi, good movie, but it's mixed. So
I think there's a huge part of this is also Solo was successful compared to a lot of other movies, but as a Star Wars movie, it was unsuccessful. Didn't really make a lot of money.
Well, and the budget was like over $200 million.
And so I think that movie scared a lot of people. But the problem is with that is if you get scared by that movie, you're afraid of creativity.
Taking risks, yeah.
You're afraid of taking the risk when that's what Star Wars was. It's based on taking risk. Everybody thought these movies were going to fail. Every single person in the business thought Star Wars was going to fail. And it became the biggest juggernaut to ever hit Hollywood. And so, I don't know. I mean, I hope that at some point, if Kathleen Kennedy does stay on after The Rise of Skywalker, which I think that she may hit a massive home run and maybe just walk off into the sunset, I hope that they take the approach they have with the TV series because the Mandalorian buzz right now is a la The Force Awakens when that was originally coming out. The people excited for this show, they are losing their mind getting ready for the show. And if you can get back to that with the movies, it's a good sight. So,
have you watched the second Mandalorian trailer?
Yeah.
Have you?
I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. So I still haven't watched it.
The funny thing is, if you remember that Disney release slate they put out earlier this year, the next Star Wars movie is set to release on December 16th, 2022.
They have plenty of time. They have plenty of time.
Which is
3 years.
3 years from now. So that's plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
If they stick to that release date, which they don't have to, that could be that Kevin Feige movie. Because what else is in the, are they working on right now?
Well, I know that they
unless it's the Rian Johnson thing, but
so Benioff and Weiss, they had their 3 movies, right? They were going to do their trilogy, which was originally said to be a series, and then went to a trilogy, and then went to a movie. So this has kind of been happening for a while.
No plan.
It doesn't exist.
Then you had the Rian Johnson trilogy, which nobody really thought was ever going to happen. Nobody really remembers this, but a couple months back, there was an announcement that a writer jumped on a Knights of the Old Republic movie. Yeah, that wasn't the Benioff and Weiss movie.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That could very well
heard anything about that since.
So that could very well be happening too. And then you have the Feige movie. So they definitely have things that they can go for. There's 3 years until that happens. There's plenty of time. All of it's going to be announced at Star Wars Celebration next year, which we're going to be at, which is awesome.
And for me, yes, so excited about
I need
that.
one of those.
For me, if you think about this, something like Solo and maybe even The Last Jedi might be blessing in disguises because, look, there was an Obi-Wan movie coming, and most likely they changed those plans because of Solo.
He came out and said it. Ewan McGregor said it was originally supposed to be a movie.
Yeah.
And then
we knew a movie was
He
coming.
said he's been lying for 4 years, and then they went to a TV series. That's what he said.
So I think because of Solo, they changed it to a TV series, and maybe, like, I would have loved a movie or a TV series, either one. But if we're really happy with the TV series, then maybe the Solo was a blessing in disguise, because now we're getting these characters in the TV form.
Yeah.
Maybe we get 6 hours with them instead of 2, and we can watch it in the comfort of our own home.
I feel like Mandalorian's going to change the game.
But that doesn't mean we're not going to get films anymore.
No.
Like,
Star Wars is
like
yeah.
Knights of the Old Republic-esque, I want on the big screen.
Star Wars movies will never go away. But The Mandalorian is going to show people that it can be told on the small screen. 100%. And in a really good way.
I forget the details, but Jake and I have an ongoing bet of whether they'll make I forget what it was, but we made it outside of the Century Theater, and it was something regarding that they'll make an episode 10 in the next 20 years, and I think it was a $50 bet.
They'll never make an episode 10.
Yeah, so that was our bet. We had, absolutely, 100% they will. I don't care what they say. We've seen this so many times with studios.
They forget.
No, I remember. I don't remember the details, but studios do this all the time. They say, "Oh, this is the last one. We're not making another one. We're not making another one," and they do.
This is gonna be the end.
No, it's not.
Was it the initial plan, a 12-film saga?
Initially.
Right? No, right?
Yeah. Well, that was what George
I'm
Lucas
just saying for the record.
So, but before
Disney is in control. They can do whatever they want.
Before we move on, real quick, because we haven't really talked about it. Does anybody think that this is also in large part because of what happened with Game of Thrones and Benioff and Weiss?
Not at all.
No.
You don't think so?
Way.
I do.
I think part of it had to do with it.
All right.
Did you hear what the recent comments?
Are you saying that Disney took them off of it because of that, or they're stepping away because of it? Because that's a different thing. Because
mixture of both.
They didn't do anything wrong.
So
why would Disney take them off of it?
I'm going to try and say this as fast as I possibly can. But so they were at the Austin Film Festival or something, and they did like an honest Q&A essentially.
Yeah.
And they talked about how a large part of why they're leaving is because of the toxic fandom. Of Star Wars, which also comes from a toxic fandom of Game of Thrones. But they also revealed that, and they stupidly said this, that they had no idea why HBO hired them to do the show, no idea why George R.R. Martin chose them to do the show, and that season one was essentially they got hired to go to an expensive film school. That's essentially what they said, that they had no idea what they were doing, and they went into doing it. And so
and it became the biggest
show. But I also think that because of what happened with Game of Thrones and everything that kind of came out afterwards, I do think that they stepped back and said, so maybe these aren't the guys to do that.
I think that they stepped away because of the toxic fandom of Game of Thrones, which, if they messed up Star Wars, would have been escalated to something else. But I don't think, like, Disney said, "Oh, Game of Thrones Season 8 wasn't that good, let's pull them off."
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think it was that at all.
I think you on the same page a little bit here.
Game of Thrones Season 8 wasn't even that bad. It was disappointing. It wasn't bad. If you're referring to the season finale, the last episode, that's a different story, but the entire season wasn't bad.
It was just really, really rushed.
Yeah.
We gotta move on, though.
Yeah.